You saw him one-punch darkside. You saw him erase concepts from reality. Now witness the ultimate escalation. This is part 2. The sky didn't tear. It unremembered itself. One moment, the evening stars over Metropolis glittered. The next, patches of the firmament became blank, white voids. Not emptiness, absence. The very idea of sky was being consumed. From the spreading wound, a silence deeper than space poured down, swallowing sirens, distant traffic, even the hum of electricity. On his balcony, Saitama watched, his cape stirring in a wind that wasn't there. For the first time since arriving in this universe, a flicker of genuine focus lit his eyes. Not excitement, not fear, interest. Behind him, Superman landed, the very air around him crackling with contained power. Saitama, wait. We don't know what that is. We need a plan. Plans are for weak guys, Saitama said, not unkindly. He pointed a thumb at the void. That thing's just rude. Look at it. Erasing stuff. Who does that? It consumes fundamental concepts. Martian Manhunter's voice echoed in their minds via the Watchtower link. Our scans show hope and courage fading within a 5-mile radius. People are simply giving up. Indeed, on the streets below, people had stopped running. They stood listlessly, staring at nothing as the will to act was stripped from the environment itself. See, Saitama said, it's ruining the neighborhood. He cracked his knuckles. A sound like tectonic plates shifting echoed through the silent city. I'll be back for Mrs. Henderson's scones. He bent his knees, not in a heroic leap, but in the casual crouch of a man preparing to step over a puddle. Then he pushed off. The physics of the DC universe, already strained by his presence, finally snapped. He didn't fly through the air. He rejected the interval between himself and the void. His trajectory wasn't an arc, but a straight line that ignored inertia, gravity, and narrative convention. If you haven't subscribed yet, you're missing the most insane crossover battle ever conceived. Smash that button and hit the bell. This is where the multiverse fights back. He left a tunnel of crystallized air and fractured light in his wake. Batman's screens were a chaotic mess. Energy readings are paradoxical. It's not emitting energy, it's consuming information. The source of the phenomenon is a non-localized conceptual anomaly. It's like trying to scan the idea of forgetting. Saitama held her head, a trickle of blood from her nose. The magical field is being eaten. Spells are unraveling as I think them. Then we hit it with something that isn't magic, isn't energy, and isn't a concept, Batman growled. Flash. Vibe. Can you open a breach? Not to another Earth. To somewhere else. Cisco Ramon, his hands already glowing, shook his head. My vibrations. They're based on the concept of dimensional resonance. Dude, it's eating the science I'm using to look at it. On the main viewer, they saw Saitama reach the edge of the void. He stopped, standing on nothing as if it were solid ground. The entity had no form Saitama's eyes could pass. To him, it looked like a constantly shifting, frustratingly bland pattern, like static on a dead TV channel. If the static was also hungry. A sound vibrated through his bones, a wordless command, cease. It wasn't an attack. It was a suggestion to the universe that Saitama's existence be retroactively forgotten. Saitama blinked. Huh. Weird noise. He floated closer. Hey, you're making a mess down there. The entity reacted. It couldn't adapt to him. There was nothing to adapt to, so it did the only thing it could. It projected a wave of nothing. This wasn't darkness or vacuum. It was the absolute negation of matter, energy, and thought. A sphere of pure ontological zero expanded, swallowing light, space, and the very laws of physics. Galaxies could be unmade by this. It hit Saitama. His jumpsuit fluttered. He looked down at his chest, then back at the entity. Was that supposed to do something? For the first time in its existence, which spanned the birth and death of countless multiverses, the concept eater experienced a novel input. Confusion. Saitama threw a punch. A normal one. The fist moved through the non-space. It connected with the core idea of the entity, its self. The force didn't travel. It was instantly true. The void shattered. Not with a bang, but with a sudden, deafening cacophony of everything. All the concepts it had consumed, hope, courage, sky, color, sound, were vomited back into reality in a chaotic, screaming burst. The white voids became kaleidoscopic explosions. The silent city was hit with a wall of noise so dense it physically shoved buildings sideways. Saitama, caught in the conceptual backblast, was plastered with the raw essence of yellow, the forgotten fear of a long-dead god, and 17 different versions of the concept of Tuesday. He wiped gunk that was both liquid and idea off his face. "You, messy." Below, the people stirred. Their hope returned, now mixed with profound bewilderment. Did you see that? He didn't just punch a monster. He punched the idea of a monster and made it vomit concepts. We are breaking the scale. If you're loving this metaphysical mayhem, show the algorithm. Smash that like button, subscribe, and it only gets wilder. The entity was gone, but the punch had consequences. A shockwave of restored concepts, amplified by Saitama's power, rippled outwards through layers of reality the Justice League hadn't even known existed. In the Rock of Eternity, the wizard Shazam was knocked off his feet as the very concept of magic briefly doubled in intensity. In the Speed Force, a phantom image of Saitama, bored face, flickered for a nanosecond, causing every speedster across time to simultaneously trip over nothing. In the Dreaming, the Lord Morpheus paused in his work, a single rare eyebrow raised. How literal. And in the Darkest Void, something older than the present stirred. Not with anger, but with profound intellectual curiosity. The source wall, the boundary of all known creation, plastered with the remains of those who sought to climb it, trembled. A hairline fracture, no wider than an atom, appeared. From it seeped not energy, but a question. It echoed through the minds of every cosmic being. What was that? Impact. The guardians of Oa panicked. The demiurge of magic recoiled. The emotional spectrum flickered. And in a realm beyond concepts, two beings opened their eyes. They were twins. One clad in blinding white, wings of creation folded behind him. The other in perfect black, wings of dissolution held close. The Archangel Michael and the Devil Lucifer. Morning Star, both exiled from heaven and ruling their own domains, turned their gaze towards a tiny, insignificant planet called Earth. "An anomaly," Michael stated, his voice the sound of a galaxy being born. "An interesting anomaly," Lucifer corrected, a smile playing on his lips. "A monkey wrench thrown into the grand, tedious machinery. How delightful." For the first time in eons, they were in agreement. This could not be ignored. The Justice League threw a party. It was awkward. The Watchtower's main hall was decorated, but the air was thick with unspoken tension. Saitama stood by the punch bowl looking profoundly out of place. "You saved reality," Wonder Woman offered, raising a glass. "I guess," Saitama mumbled, eyeing the tiny sandwiches. "Are there any with egg salad?" Before she could answer, the space in the center of the hall folded. Not a boom tube or a magic circle. It was as if reality politely stepped aside to make room. From the fold, two figures emerged. Michael glowed with a light that didn't illuminate but revealed the true essence of things. To look at him was to understand creation. Lucifer wore light like a suit, absorbing it, radiating a charismatic void that promised infinite freedom and infinite cost. To look at him was to understand choice. The League moved as one, battle-ready. "Be at ease, warriors." Michael's voice resonated in their souls. "We are not here for conflict. We're here for him," Lucifer said, his eyes, pools of amused infinity, locked on Saitama, who was now piling egg salad sandwiches onto a paper plate. Saitama looked up, his mouth full. You guys need a plate?" "There's plenty." Superman moved between them. "What do you want with him?" "To understand," Michael said. "He performed an act outside the system. He applied a force that was not a force to a concept that was not a thing. He is a paradox. Paradoxes must be resolved." "Or exploited," Lucifer added cheerfully. "Tell me, One Punch Man, does it ever get tiresome, winning with no effort, no struggle? No point?" Saitama swallowed. He looked at Lucifer, then at Michael, then at his sandwich. "Yeah, it does." "Then let us offer you a challenge," Michael said, his wings shimmering. "Not a foe to punch, a fundamental truth to confront. The source wall is breached. Come with us. See what lies beyond. Face the mystery that even we dare not fully comprehend." The League was speechless. They were being asked to hand over their most unpredictable asset to two of the most powerful beings in existence. Saitama put his plate down. He wiped his hands on his cape. "Is it strong?" "It is the foundation of all that is," Michael intoned. "It is the ultimate cage," Lucifer smiled. "Breaking it would be fun." Saitama thought of Mrs. Henderson's scones, now probably cold. He thought of the kids drawing on his fridge. He sighed. "Okay, but make it quick. I have plans." He walked towards the cosmic beings. Superman grabbed his arm. "Saitama, you don't have to." Saitama looked at Superman's hand, then at his earnest face. "It's okay. If it's really the strongest thing, maybe." He didn't finish the sentence. The hope in his eyes was more terrifying than any power. He stepped into the fold with Michael and Lucifer. It sealed shut, leaving the Justice League in stunned silence. There was no up or down, no light or dark. Saitama, Michael, and Lucifer stood on a plane of potential. Before them, the source wall curved away into infinity, and in it, the tiny, fresh crack gleamed. "The wall is not a barrier of stone or energy," Michael explained. "It is the limit of narrative. Everything that is a story contained within. You, by existing as you do and striking as you did, have chipped the storyteller's tablet." "What's on the other side?" Saitama asked. "The unwritten," Lucifer said, his usual smirk gone, replaced by raw, avaricious curiosity. "Possibility without limit, the end of all things, and the beginning of new ones. Or perhaps, the audience." Before Saitama could ask what that meant, the crack pulsed. Something came through. It wasn't a being, it was a shape, a perfect geometric form that made their eyes water. It was a theorem, a living, absolute law of a reality where Saitama's kind of power did not and could not exist. Its mere presence was a decree. "You are an error. Be corrected." The theorem unfolded. It didn't attack. It began to rewrite the local laws of reality. Logic itself became a weapon. The first axiom it enforced, power derives from source. Saitama felt nothing. The second axiom, all action requires equal reaction. Saitama scratched his head. The theorem pulsed, frustrated. It tried a more direct approach. It manifested a blade of pure causality, designed to sever an entity from the chain of cause and effect, rendering it a forgotten ghost. The blade passed through Saitama. He felt a faint chill, like a draft. "Huh," he said. "That's new." Michael and Lucifer watched, their cosmic powers held in check, useless against this ontological weapon. The Theorem, for the first time in its existence across countless narrative layers, encountered a true contradiction. A character who operated not on the rules of the story, but on the meta-rule of being the punchline. It tried to analyze him, to categorize him. It failed. In its failure, it did the only logical thing. It attempted to delete the contradictory narrative node, Saitama, by erasing the story segment he was in. The world around them began to fade to white, starting from the edges. "Oh, no you don't," Saitama muttered. "I still haven't had my scones." He didn't use a normal punch, or a serious punch. He used a consecutive normal punches. But not at the Theorem. At the crack in the source wall. Pow, 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 pow. Each strike didn't hit matter. Each strike hit the idea of a barrier, the concept of a limit, the narrative device of a wall. The sound was the sound of every "the end" ever written being torn in half. The crack didn't just widen, it shattered. A section of the source wall, larger than a galaxy, exploded inward in a silent, majestic rain of crystalline meaning. The Theorem, exposed to the raw, unformed potential from beyond, let out a silent scream of logical paradox and dissolved into incoherent possibilities. The recoil from the punch sent Saitama, Michael, and Lucifer hurtling back through dimensions, tumbling end over end through layers of reality before crashing back into the Watchtower party, which was still in its first stunned minute of their absence. They landed in a heap in the middle of the buffet table. Silence. Saitama stood up, covered in potato salad. He looked at Michael and Lucifer, who were for once utterly disheveled and wide-eyed. "Well," Saitama said, "that was weird. Not really fun, just weird." He spotted his plate of egg salad sandwiches, miraculously intact. He picked it up. "So, anyone want to explain what that was about?" Lucifer started laughing. A real, genuine, unhinged laugh of pure delight. Michael simply stared at the ceiling, as if seeing the new gaping hole in all of existence. Superman finally found his voice, staring at the cosmic debris and the two most powerful archangels in creation sitting in a puddle of punch. "What did you do?" Saitama took a bite of his sandwich. "I fixed your wall. You're welcome. It was blocking the view." He punched the source wall. He broke the boundary of all DC reality. What happens when the unwritten pours into the known universe? What new, impossible horrors or wonders will crawl through? The Justice League is now facing a crisis they cannot punch. A reality with no rules. If you want to see the aftermath, the chaos, the cosmic cameos, the ultimate test of Saitama's boredom, you need to tell YouTube you want Part 3. Smash that like button. Subscribe to see the unmaking of the multiverse.